Hi, second graders. I'm Mrs. Hitchings, as some of you know, and I am here to do the first read of Abuelo and the Three Bears with you. We know that good readers talk about the story before we actually dive into it. So, right now, I want you to make sure you have your myBook in front of you. Turn to page 72 and 73, and then also make sure you have a pencil or a highlighter because we might be using it to find some support and examples in the story that you can write right in your book. So find those materials. And hopefully you found those quickly. If not, you can always pause the video if you need a break or if you need to go get something. All right, we're going to get started. So as it says on this page, Abuelo and the Three Bears is a folk tale. And a folk tale are stories passed down over time through storytelling. And in Abuelo and the Three Bears, we are going to find animal characters that act and talk like people. Ooh, I love that. And we're going to look for an author's purpose. We're going to look for the beginning, middle, and end of a story, just like all other fiction stories. And then also we're going to see how pictures and words work together to help us understand what happens in the story. So I hope that sounds fun to you. I'm excited to talk you through all this stuff. All right. Also, before we read, we also want to set a purpose. By the end of the story, we want to be able to tell the story in our own words, what happened in the beginning, middle, and end. And so in addition to knowing the beginning, middle, and end, we're also going to have a read to find out question in a couple minutes. Before I do that, I want to go over the power words with you. So you can point along, please, in your book, those yellow words, and I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm also going to click on the definition. So the first one is arrive. Can you say that with me? 1, 2, 3. Arrive. Good. All right. And then it says right there, and here's a picture. When you arrive, you get to a place. They asked us to arrive at 6 o'clock for dinner. Oh, that looks fun. All right, so our first word again is arrive, and it's when you get somewhere. All right, our next word is grumpy. Can you say it with me? 1, 2, 3. Grumpy. Good, and I'm sure all of you have felt grumpy maybe, like this little girl. Someone who is grumpy is in a bad mood. Mia is in a grumpy mood. Think real quick. What makes you feel grumpy like Mia? Show me a grumpy face. Okay, good. All right. Our next word is joking. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Joking. Good. And here's a picture of joking. If you're joking, you're saying something to be funny. My friends and I were joking with each other during a pillow fight. Hopefully you have a lot of joking going on at your house to have fun. All right. The next word is tucked. Can you say that with me? 1, 2, 3. Tucked. Good. And tucked is if you tucked something, you pushed it behind or into something else. He tucked in his shirt for the school picture. Has your parents or teacher made you do that for picture day like that boy? Maybe. All right. Another word, the next one is stubborn. Can you say that with me? 1, 2, 3. Stubborn. Awesome. And here's a picture. Good. Someone who is stubborn does not want to change. My stubborn little brother will not let go of the TV remote. Hopefully you don't have too much stubbornness at your house. All right. Next one, thank you for pointing to it, is growled. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Growled. Good. Growled. If something growled, it made a deep, angry sound. The older dog growled at the younger dog. And maybe you've been on a walk and maybe witnessed growling between dogs. All right, the next word is shrugged. Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Shrugged. Good. All right. And here's a picture. If you shrugged, you lifted and lowered your shoulders to show you did not know. When we asked this girl how tall she was, she just shrugged because she didn't know. And that's okay. Can you shrug with me? Our shoulders go up and down. We don't know. Shrugged. Good. All right. And point to our last one with me. This word is offered. 1, 2, 3. Offered. Good. And offered, if you offered something to someone, you asked to give it to him or her. Kara offered an apple to her teacher. How sweet. Offered. Okay. Thank you for saying those with me. And now that you know them, let's go through them and say them one more time, okay? All right. Fingers ready up here. Ready? Read with me. Arrive, grumpy, joking, tucked, stubborn, growled, shrugged, and offered. Okay. Thank you for doing those with me. We are one step closer to reading our story today. The next thing we are going to do is build a little background on bears. So we get to watch a short video about bears. So I want you to think about, as you watch the video, what did you learn from this video? Okay, it's a short one. I'll watch with you too. Here we go.
What do bears eat? They eat plants and animals that live in their habitat. Brown bears live mostly in grasslands and mountains. They eat berries, roots, fish, small mammals, and insects. Black bears usually live in forests, mountains, or swamps. They eat mostly grasses, herbs, fruits, berries, and nuts. Polar bears live in the icy cold Arctic. They eat mostly Arctic mammals. In the summer, they eat berries and plants. Some of the bears you find in stories like to eat porridge.
Okay, so can you tell me, what was this audio about? I'm so sorry, that was not a video, was it? You had to be listening, so we call that an audio. What was that audio about? Go ahead and tell me or someone next to you. Yes, that was all about what bears eat. That was a nonfiction piece about what bears eat. All right. One thing is fish, just like here in the picture. All right. So now we get to turn. Actually, I get to turn. You are going to stay right there on page 73 while I give you the read to find out question for our story, Abuelo and the Three Bears. This is a story about a grandfather and a grandson. And in this story, I want you to listen and read with me to find out, what is Emilio's abuelo or grandfather teaching him? What's the lesson that Abuelo teaches Emilio? Okay, so that's what we're going to read to find out, and I'm going to stop along the way, and I might ask you a question about the story that will help you answer that by the end. Okay, so go ahead and read the title with me. Abuelo and the Three Bears. Yes, and this is by Jerry Teo. All right, you can turn now. Okay, and when I read stories with kids, I like them to point with me because I know good readers point. Their fingers work with their eyes and their ears and their mouths to just take in and read all that they can. Okay, so I'd like you to have your finger ready with me on the page. And then also when I get to those highlighted yellow power words we practiced, I want you to read those with me. Okay? All right, let's get started. All right, so fingers ready right here on page 72. And I'll always say fingers ready. Ready, follow. It was a quiet Sunday. Emilio and his grandfather sat on the front porch. Abuelo, said Emilio, do we have to wait much longer? When will everybody get here? Your cousins will? Arrive soon, Abuelo answered, and we'll have a fine dinner. I'll tell you a story to help pass the time. All right, fingers ready on page 75. Ready, follow. Once there were 3 bears who lived in the woods. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and their little Osito. One Sunday morning, Papa Bear woke up as grumpy as ever. Then he smelled something good. Frijoles, he said. Abuelo, you're joking, laughed Emilio. Bears don't like beans. Well, all the bears I know like frijoles, said Abuelo. That's funny. In that audio we heard, did bears eat frijoles or beans? No. But in this story they do, and that's okay because in folktales, animals do what people do. All right, go ahead and turn and look at this. I'm going to move my face. Isn't that so crazy? Okay. All right, now we're on page 76 and we'll go right into 77. Fingers ready? Ready, follow. Papa Bear got up and rushed down to the kitchen. Buenos dias, said Papa Bear to Mama Bear and Osito. Papa Bear sat down at the table and tucked a napkin under his chin. How are the frijoles? Are they ready yet? He asked. Yes, answered Mama Bear, but they're still too hot to eat. I can't wait, said Papa Bear. I'm so hungry, I could eat an elephant. Abuelo, said Emilio. Bears don't eat elephants. Emilio answered Abuelo. You must never argue with a hungry bear. Okay, well, this is the beginning of our story, so I want to stop and make sure we're knowing what's going on. So can you please tell someone that's around you, an adult or maybe a brother, sister, or cousin? Or you could tell me what's happening in the story so far, in the beginning. Okay. Oh, yes. I'm hearing that Emilio is waiting for people to come over for dinner, and his abuelo is helping make it a little bit easier by telling him a story that's close to one we've heard before, right? What's that story we've heard before? Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yes, that might be one you've heard, and this is just like it. Yes, this is a version of that. Great. Thank you for talking about the beginning of the story and retelling to each other. It's so important that good readers stop and make sure they know what they're reading. And they go back if they're not sure. And you could have done that too. I don't mind. All right, let's turn to page 78. Okay, let's get our fingers ready. Oh, and we're going to start this one together. Okay, with that yellow word. Fingers ready? Ready, read. Stubborn Papa Bear didn't listen to Mama Bear's warning. Aye, he growled, jumping out of his chair. These beans are too hot. I told you so, said Mama Bear. Why don't we take a walk into town while they cool? All right, grumbled Papa Bear, whose mouth was still burning. So the bears left their breakfast to cool and went out. All right, top of 79. Fingers ready? Ready, follow. Just then, in another part of the woods, a girl named Trencitas set out from her house to visit her friend Osito. She was called Trencitas because she had long black braids. Abuelo, Amelia called out. The girl in this story is called Goldilocks, and she has blonde hair. Goldilocks, Abuelo shrugged. In my story, it was Trencitas with her long black braids who came to visit. And she was hungry too. All right, before we turn, let's predict what we think is going to happen. Good readers predict also. What do you think? Keep it in your head. Let's see if you're right. Turn the page to page 80 and have your fingers ready. Okay, ready, follow. When Trencitas arrived at Osito's house, she noticed that the door was open. So she stepped inside and followed her nose until she came to the 3 bowls of beans. First, Trencitas tasted some beans from the great big bowl, but they were too hot. Then she tasted some from the medium-sized bowl, but they were too cold. Finally, she tasted some from the little bowl, and they were just right. So she finished them all up. Think was your prediction right? I bet lots of you were. All right, top of page 81. Ready? Follow. Now, Trencitas decided to sit in the living room and wait for the bears to return. She sat in the great big chair, but it was too hard. She sat in the medium-sized chair, but it was too soft. Then she sat in the little chair, and it was just right. Until crash! Abuelo, what's Trencitas going to do? Asked Emilio. She broke her friend's chair. Don't worry, Abuelo said. She'll come back later with glue and leave it like new. All right, does this sound like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears? Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Page 82. All right, fingers ready? Ready? Follow. Trencitas was feeling very sleepy. She went upstairs to take a rest. First, she tried the great big bed, but the blanket was scratchy. Then she tried the medium-sized bed, but it was too lumpy. Finally, she tried the little bed. It was too small, but it was so cozy and soft that Trencitas soon fell asleep. When the 3 bears came home, Papa Bear headed straight to the kitchen to eat his frijoles. "Ay!" he growled when he saw his bowl. "Somebody's been eating my beans." "And somebody's been eating my beans," said Mama Bear. "And there's only 1 bean left in my bowl," said Osito. Then the 3 bears went into the living room. "Ay!" said Papa Bear when he saw that his chair had been moved. "Somebody's been sitting in my chair." "And somebody's been sitting in my chair," said Mama Bear. "And my chair is all over the place," said Osito. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to stop because right now we're in the middle of the story. So it's been a couple pages and we want to check and make sure we know what's going on in the story. So go ahead and retell to someone around you or to me what's going on in the middle of this story, Abuelo and the 3 Bears. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, I heard some good stuff. Okay, I heard that Abuelo is telling Emilio a story called Abuelo and the 3 Bears, and it's just like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. And so far in the story, Trencitas went in and she tried all the beans, and then she sat in the chairs, and then she went to the beds, and she fell asleep. And now the bears came home because they left, just like in Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. And they're finding some evidence that somebody was there. Right? That's what you said? Okay. Let's turn to page 84. Okay, fingers ready. Ready, follow. The 3 bears climbed the stairs to check out the bedrooms. Papa Bear went first. Mama Bear and Osito followed behind him. "Ay!" said Papa Bear when he looked in the bedroom. "Somebody's been sleeping in my bed." "And somebody's been sleeping in my bed," said Mama Bear. "Look who's sleeping in my bed," said Osito. He ran over to Trencitas and woke her up. Then they all had a good laugh. By now, it was getting late. Mama Bear said they'd walk Trencitas home to make sure she got there safe. Papa Bear did not like this idea. "Another walk?" he growled. "What about my frijoles?" "There'll be beans at my house," offered Trencitas. "I'll bet that made Papa Bear happy," said Emilio. "You're right," said Abuelo. "Here's what happened next." All right, so right now we're coming to the end of the story, both of the stories. And Papa has kind of a problem on this page. Would you agree? Nod your head with me if you agree. Papa is not too happy. He has a problem. All right, what's that problem? Go ahead and tell me. Yes, Papa Bear is hungry. He's had to wait for his frijoles, and he can't even eat them yet. He has to go on another walk to take Trencitas home, and he's not that happy about it, right? Okay, but hopefully his problem's going to get solved. Go ahead and turn. All right, at the top of page 86. Fingers ready? Ready, follow. When they all arrived at Trencitas' house, they sat down at a long table with Trencitas' parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, and lots of cousins. They ate pork and fish and chicken and tortillas and beans and salsa so hot it brought tears to their eyes, and they laughed and shared stories. So you see, Emilio, said Abuelo, Papa Bear had to wait a long time to eat his frijoles. But in the end, he had a wonderful meal and lots of fun, just as you will when your cousins arrive. Okay, so did Papa Bear's problem get solved? Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, he got to eat frijoles and lots of food and have fun at Trencitas' house. Good. All right, and as we turn, I want you to think back to the beginning of the story. Did Emilio have a little bit of a problem? Yeah, he did. Yeah. On page 87, I'd like you to take a second and look for a line in there that helps you know what kind of problem Emilio was dealing with in the beginning of the story. All right, this was kind of tricky, but just like Papa Bear, Emilio had to wait a long time, right? He had to wait a long time. And so hopefully you underlined or highlighted those words because just like Papa Bear, Emilio had to wait, okay? All right, and that's going to help us again with our first read to find out question, right? We're also listening and looking for what lesson is Abuelo teaching Emilio? Why did he tell him that whole story? Let's go ahead and turn and finish up. Okay, I'm gonna move out of the way. Okay. All right, fingers ready for the end of the story. Fingers ready? Ready, follow. Is that the end of the story? Emilio asked. Yes, answered Abuelo. And it's the end of your waiting, too. All right. And also, I want to point out that this story has a glossary. A glossary is like a little dictionary just for the story you read. And so there are some Spanish words that were in the story and the meanings of them here. So abuelo is grandfather. Osito means little bear, which makes sense. Frijoles, beans. Buenos dias, good morning. Ay means oh. Trencitas means little braids. Tortillas, thin corn pancakes. And salsa, spicy tomato and chile dip. So that was just a little added bonus we had here. All right, so back to our read to find out question, which is, what lesson is Emilio's abuelo trying to teach him? So we know that Emilio had to wait a long time, and now the waiting's over. Also, I want to point out that your Monday page, this totally goes along with your Monday work in your packet. And so hopefully this is going to make doing that page a little bit easier. So feel free to read the story again and look for some examples and evidence from the story to support what you think the lesson is that Abuelo was teaching Emilio. On your Monday page, there are 2 choices. You'll pick one and then give 2 details to support your answer. All right. Also, make sure you're still making connections. Have you ever had to wait for something? And have you ever had to be patient? And was there somebody or something that made it easier to wait? So, hopefully that helps you with your Monday work. I loved reading with you. I wish it was in person. Instead, I'm at my house. um, anyway, I miss you and enjoy the story.